A self-made millionaire stares at a seven-figure bank balance, yet feels a knot of sheer panic over buying a $5 coffee. An inheritor receives millions, only to frantically hide cash in a household freezer, terrified the fortune will vanish overnight. Traditional economic models assume humans are rational actors. By that logic, acquiring more money should instantly erase financial anxiety, as the material constraints of poverty disappear. Yet psychologists observe the exact opposite in a condition known as sudden wealth syndrome. An abrupt financial windfall frequently triggers extreme paranoia, intense imposter syndrome, and frantic acts of self-sabotage. Standard financial advice relies almost entirely on addition and subtraction. Treating wealth as a simple math problem fails because it ignores the deep biological programming forged by years of scarcity. Escaping poverty does not automatically erase poverty habits. Chronic financial instability permanently rewires the human operating system across three distinct layers: the physical brain, the sociological environment, and the subconscious mind. We begin with the biological hardware. Behavioral economist Sendil Mullainathan documented that poverty operates as a chronic neurodevelopmental stressor, physically altering the brain's threat detection network. He identified a phenomenon called the bandwidth tax. Under chronic financial stress, the brain's primary alarm system, the amygdala, is forced into a state of severe continuous hyperactivation. To route energy to this immediate survival response, the brain actively suppresses the prefrontal cortex, the region responsible for rational planning, impulse control, and long-term decision-making. Over years of operating in survival mode, the brain physically insulates these specific threat pathways through a process called myelination. Panic responses become highly efficient, automatic neurological highways. When a person suddenly acquires wealth, these insulated pathways remain intact. The brain cannot instantly decommission them. As a result, entirely neutral financial tasks, like opening a bank statement or reviewing an investment, continue to trigger a physical fight or flight response. Newly wealthy individuals panic over minor expenses because their nervous system is still operating on biological hardware built for survival rather than abundance. Moving from the biological to the sociological layer reveals a second structural conflict. A person can acquire money in an instant, but social norms are absorbed over a lifetime. French sociologist Pierre Bourdieu defined this as habitus, the deeply ingrained instincts, tastes, and social reflexes we naturally adopt from our class of origin and upbringing. A structural mismatch occurs when someone rapidly gains immense economic capital, but lacks the unspoken cultural capital required to seamlessly navigate high net worth environments. Bourdieu called this a cleft habitus. It produces a painful identity crisis. Upwardly mobile individuals often feel like profound imposters, carrying the guilt of leaving their origins while feeling entirely alien in their new social class. To escape this existential anxiety, individuals unconsciously self-sabotage. By hoarding cash or recklessly blowing their wealth, they force a return to a familiar social baseline where the rules are known and they finally feel safe. This self-sabotage is executed by the third layer, the psychological software. Childhood financial trauma buries rigid, subconscious rules deep within the mind. Financial psychologists call these money scripts. One of the most common is money avoidance, the learned, unyielding belief that wealth is inherently dangerous, greedy, or immoral. When individuals with this script achieve success, they experience massive internal conflict and survivor's guilt. They feel they do not deserve comfort, or that out-earning their family is a betrayal. This subconscious guilt drives them to make reckless investments or spontaneously drain their accounts, specifically to alleviate the intense psychological pressure of holding wealth. The human mind craves consistency above all else. When forced to choose between the alienating guilt of success and the familiarity of financial struggle, the subconscious mind will actively drain the bank account to restore the struggle. This is why standard financial advice fails. Handing a budgeting spreadsheet or a stock tip to someone suffering from sudden wealth syndrome addresses the math, but completely ignores the trauma. A biological nervous system response and a class-based identity crisis cannot be cured with a simple equation. Overcoming poverty habits requires clinical financial therapy. The first step to wealth management is not financial planning, but somatic grounding. Practitioners use physical techniques, like controlled box breathing, before a client checks their bank balance. This manually calms the amygdala and re-engages the rational prefrontal cortex. The process relies on strict internal boundaries. Establishing mandatory 24-hour cooling-off periods for purchases artificially bypasses the impulsive, scarcity-driven reflexes of the brain. Through gradual exposure, the individual deliberately rewrites their subconscious money scripts, teaching the mind to accept that the survival phase is over. True wealth is the accumulation of assets. That sustaining it requires the profound physiological and psychological victory of convincing your own nervous system that it is finally safe to embrace abundance.